The walkie-talkie building, as it's called, got the dubious honor of the Carbuncle Award. Suffice to say, it's been somewhat of a divisive presence in the skyline. Any reactions to that?
Well, I'm not sure. I might take exception to the word dubious because there's the hero shot of the London skyline, which always features Norman Foster's Gherkin building. Which is famous. London is famous for the Gherkin, and possibly even the Gherkin made London, the city of London, famous, but won the Carbuncle Award. So we think we're in pretty good company with that award. I mean, it's an award that's basically given by the design community, and I suppose a building has to have form, functionality, legacy. It has to have context, and when you look at 20 Fenchurch, it's certainly got functionality. It's the most popular building we've ever built, we've ever developed. Huge success financially. From a legacy point of view, the Sky Garden on top is fantastic. It's one of the top 100 tourist attractions in London. We get inundated with people trying to come and visit. It's a panoramic view, 360 views of the whole city, restaurants, great garden, all that sort of stuff. From a form point of view, actually the building should have been 3 or 4 stories taller, which I think would have made quite a lot of difference to its form. When you look at it from north and south, I think the form is beautiful. East and west, it tends to get a bit squat. Which the architect, Raphael, my good friend Raphael would probably agree with, although I would never put that question to him. But the planners made us take 3 stories off it, 3 floors off it, which made us make the floor plates a little bit bigger than possibly you might have, and that's probably to the detriment of its form.
Sure.
But the tenants love it. It's got floor plates from 14,000 square feet to 28,000 square feet. We're literally just put the last floor on offer. So as an economic proposition, it's been a huge success. And there's been even within the non-design community in London, when they heard that we got the Carbuncle Award, there was a certain amount of disagreement with that. The sort of the typical benchmark in London is the man on the Clapham omnibus. So that's the bus that goes from the central London to Clapham. He's recognised as Joe Average.
Okay.
And the man on the Clapham omnibus generally thinks it's a good building. So we're cool. We're cool with the Carbuncle Award.
Good. Glad we got that on the record.
That's it.
So you mentioned the planning process in London. Is there anything particularly, I guess, onerous about building in London, or do you find the challenge of building in London to be stimulating for good design and development?
The huge advantage Canary Wharf had over the rest of London when it was being built, probably if Canary Wharf had to go through the planning, the current planning regime in London, it would never have been built. Because the huge advantage it did have was that basically it had pre-planning. It was in an enterprise zone which the Thatcher government had created back in the 80s, and it meant that there was a master plan agreed basically with certain design guidelines. Within that and within certain height and stacking limitations, we could basically build without having to get planning consent. We've just been through a process on our new South Bank Place project, which is right at Shell Centre at Waterloo, over Waterloo Station, right behind the London Eye. And I've been working on that project for, it's about 1.5 million square feet, 8 different buildings, 2 office buildings, 6 residential buildings, retail, that sort of thing. I've been working on that project for 5 years, trying to get it through the planning process with a huge team of people. And that's pretty tough going. It's not just the planning process. There's a convention in Europe called the Aarhus Convention, which means that any citizen can challenge any statutory decision and have their costs limited to £5,000. And we went through that process with that project, which caused a further delay. So the planning process and from what I can understand here, actually, it's probably not a hell of a lot different, because I was hearing the same message here yesterday. I think people were probably afraid to be overt, just because of the people who might have been in the room to say that it needs to be streamlined. It's generally recognised in London that the planning process needs to be streamlined.
So Canary Wharf benefited from its site?
Oh, well, huge. Well, London benefited because if it had been that difficult to, I mean, the reason Canary Wharf is such a success is because we could offer 60% of our tenants are financial tenants. And they wanted big floor plates, they wanted trading floors, they wanted all that stuff, which you couldn't get in the City of London because the City of London is 2,000 years old and you just don't get those plots. Whereas Canary Wharf was a blank canvas, it was a green field, it was a brown field site. Because we were able to offer that, the financial institutions came to us, and at rents that were lower than the city as well. So if that hadn't been there, London wouldn't be the financial centre that it is, second to New York. With consequence to GDP and jobs and all those important things.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. The Canary Wharf and the city have complemented each other rather than being in competition with it. We've always felt that there was room for projects in the city and there was room for projects at Canary Wharf, and that together we would make London, from a financial service perspective, a great place, which is what happened and will continue to happen.
Do you think that can continue to happen in perpetuity? I mean, if greenfield development or further out or new districts are really the best way to master plan these new financial centers, is this going to be a case where, I don't know, decades down the line we have several disparate satellites and we end up sort of encouraging sprawl?
I doubt it, really. I think there's still an awful lot of, around East London, the whole belt around East London, running in concentric, if you can run I'm not sure you can run in a concentric circle, but there's still a lot of land on East London which is adjacent to Canary Wharf, which is ripe for redevelopment, and that's what's happening. I think the difference these days is that our model, which is different now to the model we used to have, is, and possibly we should have done this some time ago to capitalise on the fact that we had created this new district, is that Canary Wharf is not just about working; it's about living as well. So now we're in our next phase of, we've got 11 million square feet in our development pipeline. Probably about half of that is residential, high-rise residential. Which is a first for us because we've done retail very successfully, commercial office very successfully, but we've never done residential. So now it's Canary Wharf is going to be a place to live and to work, rather than somewhere people come to and then leave again in the evening.
Has the market changed in London to demand more residential? What kind of residential?
Well, actually what happened was we created the financial district at Canary Wharf. Other developers came in and developed the residential. So we created the sort of the critical mass of an area that made people to want to live there, but we didn't actually build the residential, which is possibly what we should have done. So now we're doing it.
If you had anticipated it, it would have been different, but it's still an opportunity.
It wasn't our area of expertise.
Yeah.
All the way back from Olympia, New York, which is where in Toronto, which is where Canary Wharf, and Battery Park, which is where Canary Wharf, the original founders of Canary Wharf, came from. They never did residential, so we sort of tended to shy away from it. But now we're developing that expertise, and we're marketing. We're selling the first building, the first residential building. It's been hugely successful, both at Canary Wharf and at our South Bank Place project, which is a joint venture with Qatari DR. So it's exciting times in that respect. Crossrail, which what we heard yesterday at conference was in the plenary session was the importance of transportation, being on a transportation hub. So And we have a model at Canary Wharf in our marketing suite which shows all the connections to Canary Wharf. The Jubilee line being the tube line, the subway being the first stop. Crossrail, which is basically an east-west underground train link from Heathrow right to east of Canary Wharf. We've got our own Crossrail station now. The current working population of Canary Wharf is 110,000. Which to an extent is limited by the number of people that we can get there on a daily basis. But with Crossrail, it doubles our capacity. And then there's Crossrail 2, which is the next big infrastructure project. Crossrail 1 opens. We've finished the station already. We built the station ourselves, so we self-delivered the station, which is about 1,000 feet long. And the trains haven't arrived yet. The station's finished. The retail is open. Beautiful garden on top. But the trains will arrive in 2018.
And that'll allow people to go directly from Heathrow to Canary?
Yes.
Wharf.
Yeah. But more importantly, basically doubles the capacity of the infrastructure to get people to Canary Wharf. So it's all about transport.
So one of the themes of this conference is global exchanges. How has the flow of international capital affected your work, and how has it changed since the financial crisis?
I'm not sure it's changed. It's changed. I'm not sure it's changed particularly since the financial crisis. I mean, I think in the early 2000s we were the method of raising debt or equity was generally a combination of borrowings and securitization of rents, which we did very successfully. We're probably fairly unique in that we pioneered securitization. These days, and if I take our project at Shell Centre, which has got, let's say, a GDV of somewhere around 2 billion, construction cost of somewhere around 900 million, something like that. And we're a joint venture. We've sold a number of the buildings in order to fund. We sold the 2 commercial buildings to another developer who we've got a pre-let on one of them. We already had a pre-let on one of them when we sold. The other developer is borrowing money from a sort of a second-tier bank, where we've got a Barclays heading up a syndicate of other banks who are providing construction financing. So there's a whole combination of different offerings which go together to put to make that either to provide equity or to provide funding.
So it's gotten more complex.
It's definitely got more complex. I mean, notwithstanding that the rates of return are still attractive. But certainly what I call the financial engineers, which I'm not one of, but the financial engineers have got a much bigger role and a much more sophisticated part to play in the process than has been the case, say, 15 years ago.
Do you think that's a positive trend, negative, neutral?
Well, look, I think there's a huge there's London and New York are regarded as the safe havens for capital.
Sure. And
values in London, or if you're talking residential, are probably at least 50% higher than New York. So maybe even higher than that. And if that capital, if international capital wants to come to London because there's a return on the investment and because it's a safe investment, well then that can only be good. Of course it's good, yeah. I mean, we pay. The way I look at it is we give them a lot. If you're talking Middle East, we give them a lot of money for their oil. Mm-hmm. We buy their oil. We pay a lot of money. Not so much these days, but in the past, a lot of money flows out of the UK to the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And it's entirely virtuous that the money should come back into the UK or into London as the same money. So it just makes
in the form of real estate,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So it just makes the wheel of commerce revolve, which is a good thing.
What do you think is there an impact on London as a city for I forget the name, you said the average bus rider?
The man on the Clapham omnibus.
Yes. So
You've learned something new.
I do, yeah. So that's like the Joe the plumber, I guess.
That's right.
Joe Sixpack. What's the impact from his perspective on the city? Does he notice any difference in London in real estate development as a result of this flow of capital?
I think he does, yeah, because there's something like 250 tall buildings. I mean, London, when London compared to New York is a relatively low rise. Other than clusters, there's a relatively low rise city. But there's something like 250 tall buildings, either under construction, in development, on the drawing boards, in planning in London, which possibly will be delivered sometime over the next 5 to 10 years. So that's bound to change. It not only will change the skyline. Obviously, there's a huge demand for housing in London, and the industry, the developer and construction industry is not government is not satisfying that demand or anywhere near, and that's a problem.
Already,
yeah, that's a problem, and for that reason, affordability becomes an issue, and people can't afford to purchase properties. Generally, the purchasing property or the property ownership as the model is linked from rental, although the PRS model is gradually beginning to get legs. PRS, yeah. So it's private rental. So you build a building which is just for rent. Which we have at Canary Wharf. It's well known. It's well known in the States. Yeah. I mean, I think, but that's progress, and people will notice that will notice that they're having to move further out of London from an affordability point of view. But as long as the transport links and the investment in infrastructure has continued to be made as it is, that's okay. But certainly the dynamic will change over the next 10 years.